It's definitely been a journey, and like going to Saudi Arabia and England and getting to meet you and just doing all those pop-ups in like Manchester and Norwich and London, like that's something that I never thought was possible when I chose this industry.
Welcome to It Was All a Dream with me, Nathersonn, and my guest, Josie. Josie, who are you and what do you do? Do you want to introduce yourself and let the people know what it is you do?
I would love to know. Thanks so much for having me. I am a vegan chef. I came to England and I had the pleasure of meeting you 2 years ago after I had a little stint on Gordon Ramsay's Hell's Kitchen, season 20. And right now I'm on a mission to basically install veganism as a hardware into the brains of everyone worldwide.
That sounds good. That sounds good. So, how long have you been vegan for?
I've been vegan for almost 8 years now, and it's been basically a life-altering journey. I feel like I've just alleviated all obstacles from my life once I chose this lifestyle. I feel like I just kind of aligned with my purpose, and it's been smooth sailing ever since I made the commitment.
Okay, cool. So, how long have you been like chefing for and had an interest in like the kitchen industry and stuff like that?
My friend was just asking me this earlier. In third grade, I wrote in my yearbook that I wanted to be a chef because that's what we had to. We had to like draw a little picture of ourselves doing what we do in the future, whatever we want to be. And I drew myself as a chef, and I was never surrounded by chefs. I don't know, like I think it's just like that inner child wisdom that just knew I was going to be a chef one day. And yeah, I kind of forgot about that dream. As you go through like elementary and middle school and high school, your parents start to sway you in certain directions and make you think about like money and think about college and think in a more linear way of like how you're going to survive in this world. And I was always told like chefs don't make that much money, and I was like, I don't care, I want to cook. But it died off until I became a server. My mom was like, you need to get out of the house. You don't play sports anymore and you need to get a job. And I got a job as a server, but then I saw the cooks in the back and I was like, okay, that's what I want to do. I want to be a part of that angry chaos that's happening back there. And the rest is history. That was when I was 16. And I've basically been cooking ever since. I took like a 3-year break, and it was actually I took a break because I went vegan, and I didn't really know like how to relate to the industry anymore. I didn't know how to identify as a chef if I wasn't going to cook meat, because I took a lot of pride in that. And so it was kind of like an ego death that I had to go through and just like reshape my entire identity. And then it was Hell's Kitchen that actually called me because I was doing like vegan consulting while I was working a sales job, like a 9-to-5 basic job. And they called me and they found my consulting page on Facebook. They're like, hey, we saw you're the vegan chef. Do you want to be on Hell's Kitchen? And I was like, at first I thought it was a scam, and then I found out it was real. And then they were like, are you okay with cooking meat? That was the last question they asked me before we got off the phone, because they had literally called me through Facebook Messenger. Like they had found me and called me through Facebook Messenger.
Creepy.
Yeah. And then I was like, I don't know. I don't want to cook meat. And I said no. And then that was it. That was the end of the call. And then 2 weeks later, I was like really thinking, I need to get back in the kitchen. First of all, I need to make a name in the vegan world and spread veganism. And if I want to spread veganism, what better way than to like be on a massive platform that would, potentially plant that seed in so many people who are watching this show that's like all about cooking meat, So that's my long answer.
That's cool. Just where did you come on Hell's Kitchen, by the way?
How did I place?
Yeah, what did you rank at?
I ranked ninth out of 18. And so I felt pretty good about that,
Top
honestly.
10.
Tasting or cooking, like I wasn't tasting anything that I was cooking.
You got to meet Gordon Ramsay. That's what matters.
Yeah, that's all that matters. I'll give you the knives.
So from a chef like perspective, or even just personal life, was there any like idols or heroes, or like who was your inspiration behind wanting to either be a chef or just that motivation to chase that dream?
Well, I think that, Gordon Ramsay was a big idol of mine. I watched him on Kitchen Nightmares when I was a kid, and I loved how he supported and encouraged restaurant owners, sometimes in brutal ways, but sometimes that's what's required in order to wake people up and to get, the operation in order. So Gordon's always been an idol for me. So it was a really big deal to be able to meet him and work alongside him and be trained by him, because he really does spend a lot of time with you, when you're on set. And other than that, I mean, the kitchen was just like the motivation for me to continue was just knowing that the kitchen was a place where I could express all emotions and my passion to its entirety, and it wouldn't be frowned upon. It was actually encouraged. And so it was like a safe space for me to just be wild in a sense where I would otherwise be suppressed.
Oh, cool. That's nice. That's nice. And then, did you ever have like a backup plan for in case, you didn't want to go back into chefing? So was there ever a backup like of, so I was speaking to a guest last week, and their backup was I was working in like, postal services, and that was pretty much it. Like that, So, was there ever a backup for you?
I mean, I guess the backup was when I decided to go into corporate. I worked at Tesla for like almost 3 years, when I went vegan. And so I know that I'm capable of and then I did construction management. So like that was something that I always knew I could go back into, because it's very similar skill sets to like organizing a kitchen and like making sure that everything's running and like, creating logistics around a project to make sure that it gets done in time. There's always skills that you learn along the way, along the journey, that can be applied to several arenas, several industries. You can always, as long as you're learning something, you can always find a way to get paid for it. So that was kind of my mentality. And I figure if I can get paid to do this anywhere, I just want to do it in the kitchen. So I've always known in my mind, there is always a plan B, and just telling myself that over and over again is what allowed me to just continue to proceed with plan A. But I never really made like a firm plan B, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, personally, I tend to just have the one plan, and like if it don't go to plan, shit, okay. I wing it after that point. Like, I think just for me, I'm like, I will get there at some point. So just keep fucking going for that. But yeah, I think that's really cool. I mean, I find most people tend to just have that kind of that one vision for themselves where they're like, that's kind of what I want to do. Or I think if you are focusing on something else, you're going to get distracted or discouraged in some way,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that, when you want to get comfortable, you just will. And if that plan B is more comfortable, you're just gonna let go of plan A. I couldn't agree more. And I think Gemini is Gemini life, baby. we're the pros at winging it. And I think anybody can wing it, once you end up in a pitfall, there's always a way out. There's always another option somewhere. There's no limit to what we can create.
So where would you, I mean, I've kind of already asked this, and it was kind of what inspired the dream to be the chef. And it was to obviously give yourself the vegan give the vegan community the platform. Do you feel like that was successful with the Hell's Kitchen? I mean, you've gone on to do a lot since Hell's Kitchen, right? You've done quite a bit since then. And
Yeah,
you're trying to open up a vegan restaurant, I believe.
yeah. I think, I've actually put a pause on opening my own restaurant. I will own my own restaurant for sure. But yeah, Hell's Kitchen was definitely the right platform because first of all, Gordon Ramsay's created such a brand that it really helps leverage anybody who goes on the show as long as you have the right determination afterwards. It's not like the show carries you, but what it does provide is visibility. And having that visibility gives you just a lot more opportunities, but then it's just hard work and determination after that. And it's definitely been a journey, and like going to Saudi Arabia and England and getting to meet you and just doing all those pop-ups in like Manchester and Norwich and London, like that's something that I never thought was possible when I chose this industry. And honestly, like Hell's Kitchen has just opened so many doors, and I just want now more than ever, it's not just about hyping up the vegans and like hyping up veganism for the rest of the world. It's more about just like showing people you can be successful with anything that you choose to do, as long as you just stay focused and you stay positive. I think, that's the more important message than obviously going vegan for the animals is right next to it.
So I remember when we spoke, you mentioned that you was pretty much a private chef at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
what made you, or what makes you want to transition from that sort of private chef to owning a restaurant, or do you kind of want to do both?
The thing about being a private chef is it's very intimate. And so you get to build a relationship with your clients, and hopefully like you get to go cook for them again and cook for their friends and their family, over time. And I think that restaurants can provide that too. And that's the thing about being a private chef is you can build that relationship, and maybe you can only have time to build 3 relationships, cooking full-time or part-time for like people. But restaurants, if you curate it with that intention in mind, I think that it's definitely feasible to just curate that kind of relationship with everybody that walks in the door, if that's what your intent is when you're a restaurant owner. And I think the spirit of hospitality is kind of, it's disappearing, not on purpose, but like after COVID, it's just harder. It's harder and harder for restaurant owners to stay open. So we have to get innovative and find new ways to be able to provide great service and obviously make a profit to keep everybody employed.
Yeah, I mean, especially with like technology as well. Like you go to like these fast food branches and stuff like that, and they're all like touchscreen menus now and tablets, which you don't need to communicate with someone other than the point of collecting your food, which you look up at a screen, the number pops up, and you get it. There's no actual human interaction there in a service anymore,
Yeah.
which is a shame, to be fair, because it's a great industry. So then, just on that, I did have another question. Backing off that, I can't remember what it was though. I got distracted by side talking. So I'll swing on to another question. I hope it'll come back to me. Is there any sacrifices you've made to get to where you are that you regret?
Oh, that I regret. I'd say that the only regret that I have, if you would have asked me this a year ago, I would have said no. I have no regrets, but now I'm seeing that, it would have been nice to have more time with my family, to make more memories with my family. But at the same time, like we're all so different, and we've kind of like taken time to honor that and just like celebrate each other's different lives and what we have going on in them in our own separate bubbles. But it would have been nice to like maybe take my family with me, or maybe restructure things so that my family could work with me or something like that, But other than that, I mean, I don't have any regrets because I have just like enjoyed every moment, even when it's been super scary or I've been super broke, which has happened just so many times. And will continue to, as you know, as you try to like reach new heights. Sometimes you have to go broke in order to like build something new or stretch yourself in some new way. And all those sacrifices have been worth it. And despite not even having like a lot of time with my family, you know, they've all been super supportive still. So I can't really say that it's a regret. Maybe it's just more like wishful thinking.
Yeah, I mean, you can give them a job at your restaurant when you open that.
Exactly. My
There you
grandma's
go.
already signed up to be the dishwasher or the host.
No, that's cool. So I remember the question actually. It was based on obviously during your time on Kitchen Nightmares. No, Hell's Kitchen. During your time on Hell's Kitchen and being around the, I mean, I'm not too sure how much Gordon was on it in himself, but obviously there was 18 other chefs that have obviously gone on to do their own thing, probably open their own restaurants. I'm not too sure on their journeys, but did you find that because you obviously mentioned about the intimacy of being a private chef, that networking is a huge thing for yourself? So do you find like networking being important and that it's been useful to help you get to where you are, such as like networking? I know you've still got contacts with Gordon and stuff like that. So in that sense, has that always been an important thing to you to network?
Yeah, I think that genuine and authentic networking is important for sure, because then you'll end up with your people and, you know, the kind of people who are actually going to support you, not just people who will give you fake support, but people who will actually leverage what they have because they believe in you and they will help you get to where you want to go because they see what you see in your vision, and they're like, yeah, let's make that happen. And then they team up with you and they, you know, they give, people who give. And I think that's sometimes the con of networking is like sometimes you end up with like a lot of contacts and like none of them are exactly what you need. But networking is like, it's not always about what you can get from people. It's also about networking so you can continuously give everything that you have, share your journey, share what you've learned along the way. And then that's how you kind of like, you know, make that negative thing, that con of networking, into a positive, as you offer what you have, even if, you know, you didn't end up getting what you needed. It's always important to like spread whatever message or whatever hard lessons that you've learned. And I think that that just kind of amplifies like the energy of everybody that is around you, you know, and then it just makes that journey for everyone involved that much easier.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I found along the way that it's not even necessarily what I can gain or give to them. They may know somebody that might need a service, or do you know what I mean? And it's quite odd, really, because like all circles tend to connect. Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So even if they're in that circle, they might know someone in another circle, and they're like the link in the chain. So I've always found that quite useful, and I've always like networking for me has always been a great tactic. That's how I've like managed to get all this stuff. To be fair, it turns out everybody
Oh,
knows
you're
everybody. Yeah.
yes.
um,
Yeah, and
yeah,
networking like super draining, and that's why I would say that like networking, there would even be a con in networking. That's the only like thing that I could speak to, but
it's exhausting. Yeah.
it can be exhausting because then all of a sudden you end up like keeping in contact with like 150 people every
Yeah.
day, you know, every day. At least for me, I feel like I'm like talking to so many people, and it's like, okay, well, maybe they really need me. And then sometimes it's also like an opportunity to be like, I can't talk this week. I'm really busy. I'm sorry. I'm like, let's touch base like once a month and see like
Yeah.
how I can help you then. You know what I mean?
So, final two questions really is what is the one dish that you wish you invented? What's the one dish where you've gone, I wish I thought of that?
Mm,
Or one dish you wish you could cook? I know you're not the best at cooking meat.
there's actually this dish where you take massive oyster mushrooms and you season them, and then you press them between two cast irons and you sear them, and then you stack them up, and then you baste them in like an al pastor sauce, or you can do like some sort of Mediterranean dishes if it's like lamb, and then you slice it. And I wish that I had thought of that. I wish that I was the creator of that, but it's something that can easily be replicated as far as technique goes, and then you can always like play with the flavor and make it your own. And I really want to do that. I don't own two cast irons, and they were, when I saw this video, I think it was Advent Gard, something like that on Instagram, and he was doing it over the fire, like in the middle of like big nature, like massive mountains and greenery and like so many colors, and it was like, yeah, that's the right way to do it.
Looks peaceful.
Yeah, totally.
Okay, cool. And then oh, actually, I'll add another one on. What's the proudest moment in your career?
Saudi Arabia for sure. It was opening up Matthew Kenny's concept. Just being able to work with Four Seasons and the team in Riyadh, that was a journey. I mean, I got there 3 weeks before opening day, and it was like a last minute insert into this project. Like I was the last minute insert, and then I ended up like kind of directing everything that was happening at Four Seasons for Riyadh season, like all the other chefs that were there for different restaurants, like to open up different restaurants. Like I ended up organizing all the logistics, and that was just so much fun. It was so fulfilling. It was such hard work. I legitimately put myself in the hospital, working so hard and being so stressed out and just wanting everything to like be perfect. And I learned the most that I've ever learned in my career. That was that was amazing. That was so fun. I'm so grateful for that opportunity.
Okay, perfect. And then lastly, for anybody watching or listening that wanted to obviously become a chef, whether it's vegan or not, and just kind of follow the steps that you've done to being so successful and achieving what you wanted to achieve, what advice would you offer them or give them?
Never give up. Always stand up, keep moving forward, document every mistake that you've ever made, and figure out how the problem is actually the solution. That way, next time that you run into that problem, you know exactly how to handle it. And yeah, just be positive. Be positive. And just know that the only way to succeed is through like multiple failures. So always move forward, like knowing that you're going to fail, and be friends with that. And the more that you can be friends with that, the less fear you have, and the more creative juices you'll have, because fear is like the biggest thing that constricts creativity and finding creative solutions and like producing that next best dish and having that hard conversation with your boss or your coworker, to make things right or to get to where you want to be, to get your team to where you want to be. Yeah, you just got to stay positive and know that you're only going to learn through failure.
That's good. As just on that, actually, obviously you mentioned you wasn't cooking meat and stuff when you become a vegan. Stepping back into the kitchen, I'm sure losing the touch of cooking meat wasn't then obviously your strong point. Was there ever a time where you felt like just giving up and being like, oh, chef's not for me anymore? Like after going back in that environment, and if there was that time, what made you continue and stick at it?
Oh, dang. It was actually after Saudi Arabia. I was like, I can't do this. Like the fact that I worked myself into a hospital, like there's no way I could open another restaurant. There's no way I could travel overseas and do this alone again. But after Saudi Arabia, I went to Mexico for 6 months just because it was a cheap place to be and like be with my thoughts. And taking that time, like recognizing when you're in a negative headspace is so important. That way you can actually take the time to understand why you feel so negative and take time to dive deeply into that and figure out how to extract the positive, and just at least have the intent to extract the positive, even if you feel like crap for a really long time trying to figure it out. It was after Saudi Arabia, and now it's like still to this day my most fulfilling moment, because I spent so much time just trying to figure out like why things were so hard, what I could have done differently, what I will do differently next time. And I got a couple tattoos to like put a couple key reminders on my body forever. And yeah, I can confidently say I'm totally cool with going overseas and opening a restaurant again. So yeah.
That's quite interesting, really, because obviously you're saying that your biggest doubting moment was after your proudest moment, so after your peak, you know. So that's really interesting. But I mean, that wraps it for me. To be fair, I'm pretty much done with all my questions. So if you just want to let people know where they can find you at socials, support you, and buy into you, then let me know, or let them know where they can comment and stuff.
You're so sweet. I prefer to keep in touch on Instagram. I talk to people on Instagram more than I respond to my text messages. So you can catch me at Vegan Chef Josie, no spaces, nothing fancy. Josie is Josie. And yeah, you can DM me. I will voice memo you. Hope you're cool with that.